Hey everybody, what is going on? Maxx here with another Master Duel video for you guys. We're jumping straight back into some more branded Despia gameplay as I played quite a few games with this deck after I first built it. Well, obviously I was going to, right? The new Tier 1 deck, and I do think it is definitely just a Tier 1 deck on the block. Got to definitely play with that a fair bit, and yeah, I am super loving this deck so far. I'm not going to lie. I think this is like definitely going to be up there as one of my like, you know, one of those like meta decks that I immediately kind of like latch onto. I really like this deck. It's a lot of fun. Just like, I don't know, recycling the Mirrorjade with like the Guardian Chimera and wheeling it with the Ad Libitum. It's such a like cool sequence of plays, and like Mirrorjade is just such a disgusting boss monster. It's so disgustingly good. The thing is too, it's like it doesn't feel like too unfair. Like it's kind of more the whole interaction between Mirrorjade like and, you know, the Guardian Chimera and all that stuff, but like, you know, in a vacuum, Mirrorjade is like the most absurd boss monster ever. I don't know, it's pretty powerful though. as I'm just reading its effect as I'm saying that and remembering just like, oh yeah, it's like non-targeting, banish, like destruction during the end phase, providing inevitability. Like, it's just a really strong card. It's really cool. I really like this deck a lot. Don't worry, I will still be doing like, you know, I will still feature other new cards like the new Sword Soul Synchro. I will still provide an update for that, rest assured. Yeah, in the meantime, I've been having a ton of fun playing with branded Despia. I really like this deck. Build is still the same because these games immediately followed the games that we saw in the deck profile, so going to be more of those games there, or more games there with this build. So that said, if you do have suggestions for the build, I am definitely more than open to them. I gladly welcome them in the comments below. Those of you who have, like, you know, played TCG, OCG, or are just generally more familiar with branded Despia, particularly interested on like what your take of the deck is, like relative to like the Master Duel meta, not just like obviously the ban list, but the meta itself, and the fact that it's a best of one. Again, I'm thinking more of like ranks ladder, best of one format. I feel like I kind of tried to do my best to adapt some of the early OCG builds I was seeing into a more Master Duel kind of centric format, particularly main decking stuff like Nibiru and Harpie's Feather Duster. And then, of course, obviously, again, like, you know, Pot of Prosperity is at 1, Vanity's Emptiness is banned, all that fun stuff. So, yeah, those differences are going to be there as well. Yeah, you know, like I said, if you have any suggestions, definitely feel free to leave them below. I think this build is pretty solid, like in terms of like it's just consistent. It's playing like all the stuff it needs to. I think anyway. Of course, I might be forgetting or overlooking something. That is always a possibility. Branded Lost in particular was a card that quite a few people were saying is a good addition. I might still drop something like, yeah, again, I don't know. I know you don't need 2 Fallen of Albaz. I just kind of like having a backup one in case, but like I could drop an Albaz for that, or maybe even like Feather Duster if the format doesn't end up being too back row centric. I'm not seeing a whole lot of back row centric decks right now. I think everyone's just kind of like, you know, playing with the new toys. So we're not seeing as many like Eldritches and stuff running around, but doesn't mean that they're not going to be there eventually. So I think Feather Duster in the long term might end up being like a better choice, but like maybe in the short term for now it gets dropped for something else. Nah, who knows, you know. Yeah, let's see. Like I said, the build is pretty much just still the same as the deck profile here. So yeah, let's just go ahead and break the build down card by card here, as we always do at the start of the video, just so that we're all on the same page of what is being played here, and then we'll take a look at some gameplay. So we are playing 2 Effect Veiler, 1 Despian Comedy, 1 Despian Tragedy, 3 Maxx, 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, 1 Ghost Belle and Haunted Mansion, 2 Water Enchantress of the Temple, 2 Fallen of Albaz, 3 Aluber, the Jester of Despia, 1 Wandering Gryphon Rider, 1 Ad Libitum of Despia, 1 Nibiru, the Primal Being, 1 Harpie's Feather Duster, 1 Foolish Burial, 2 Rite of Aramesir, 3 Branded Fusion, 1 Dracoback, the Rideable Dragon, 1 Fateful Adventure, 2 Caught by the Grave, 1 Crossout Desginator, 3 Branded Opening, 2 Branded in Red, and 2 Infinite Impermanence will round out the main deck. Extra deck is going to contain 1 Predaplant Dragostepelia, 1 Titanklad the Ash Dragon, 2 Albion the Branded Dragon, 1 Despian Quaretits, 2 Masquerade the Blazing Dragon, 2 Mirrorjade the Iceblade Dragon, 2 Lubellion the Searing Dragon, 1 Guardian Chimera, 1 Link Spider, 1 Relinquished Anima, and then finally 1 Predaplant Vert Anaconda. Alright, so yep, like I said, that is going to do it for the deck and the build itself here. Now let's go ahead and take a look at some games. Alright, so this first game we've got is actually a pretty nice back and forth with a mirror match. And my opponent's build is actually almost exactly mine. It's 2-card difference. They're playing a third Imperm and Prosperity instead of Feather Duster and Despian Comedy. Otherwise, we're playing like pretty much the exact, not even pretty much, we are playing the exact same build here. So anyway, I'm going to lead with the branded opening here. Opponent's going to respond with the Maxx. I'm going to hit that with the Called By. Obviously, I don't want my opponent to be drawing cards here. I don't have a Maxx of my own to be thinking about, so I definitely am fine using the Called By here. But yeah, I'm going to use this branded opening to discard the Dracoback here to search up the Aluber to get my play started. We did open the Despian Tragedy, so that's like, we're going to have to do things like a little bit differently, but it's not like too bad. They do have the Imperm they're going to hit us with here, but we've got the Crossout Desginator. Actually, if I recall correctly, let me see this real quick. I feel like something caused this to not trigger like I thought it was going to, question mark? I guess we'll see. I'm just trying to remember exactly how this game played out, but yeah, obviously going to use the Aluber to search up the branded fusion. We'll use that, and because we have the Tragedy in hand, I just decided to send the Despian Comedy instead. We'll use that to go for the Lubellion. Oh, you know what it was? Yeah, it's because I discarded it for a cost and not for a card effect. That's why it didn't trigger there. I was curious as to why that didn't happen. So yeah, that being the case, the Tragedy didn't trigger. We weren't able to search the Ad Libitum. So, you know, I decided because I didn't have the Ad Libitum, I wouldn't be able to go into the whole Guardian Chimera play anyway. I did want to banish my Aluber to set that up because then my Mirrorjade wouldn't have its banish available. So I decided to just go ahead and pass the opponent here rather than set up that play. I think that was right. It's possible there's an interaction, just because, again, I'm still relatively new to this deck myself. It's possible there's an interaction that I just wasn't aware of that might have been able to help circumvent, you know, this situation. If there was, again, definitely let me know in the comments. That's something that I'm definitely very eager to learn about. So, but in this case, given the knowledge that I had, I decided to just go ahead and pass with the Mirrorjade here. Opponent's got an Imperm and then their own branded fusion, which is definitely a bit of a yikes here, as they're now able to set up, to set up their own Mirrorjade play here, basically. So yeah, and they're able to set it up proper because they were able to send the Despian Tragedy to the graveyard. So yeah, they get the Aluber here, which will then use to summon, I'm assuming, use that to grab the Ad Libitum via branded opening. We'll see what they end up doing here. Yeah, normal summoning the Aluber, searching up the branded in red. Okay. And then, of course, using Mirrorjade to banish probably our Mirrorjade. I wouldn't respond with my Mirrorjade to send the Titanklad, even though my Mirrorjade's negated. The Titanklad, because it got sent as cost, will still be able to I'm going to use it to add a Fallen of Albaz. Basically, my plan is I want to add that Fallen of Albaz, and then if the card I draw for turn isn't something that's really useful, I can at the very least use Fallen of Albaz plus the card I draw to go into a Mirrorjade. And yes, it is the there is the case that I triggered the Mirrorjade's effect, so that way, my opponent will lose all their stuff during the end phase. But again, I just want to set up the play with Fallen of Albaz to have it for later, not necessarily like the next turn, because again, my opponent won't have any monsters the next turn. Opponent searches up the Rite of Aramesir, but because they summoned the Aluber and used the effects, they're not able to get the Adventure Engine online. Obviously, very good for me. Although, I actually would not have minded them setting that up, because then they would have just gotten destroyed by my Mirrorjade's effect here during the end phase. But yeah, end phase, I'll use Titanklad to add Fallen of Albaz, then my opponent's stuff gets popped due to the Mirrorjade. It's really nice too, because that's actually going to trigger their Mirrorjade during their turn while I have nothing on board, so that obviously isn't really going to do anything at all to me. We'll use Despian Tragedy to set up the branded fusion once again, and then go ahead and activate that. This time I'll send the Ad Libitum to the graveyard, and the main reason I want to do that is because I want to be able to wheel that later with a branded in red, and then use that to set up a Guardian Chimera play. Opponent does have the Masquerade coming back here. I guess to be fair, I could have used the Fallen of Albaz with that to make the Mirrorjade, but nah, we're definitely just gonna make our own Mirrorjade this way. Yeah, because that's going to get banished anyway, I don't feel the need to banish it just to do, like, damage here. I'll banish my own Actually, there was no... Oh, no, there wasn't either, because I can only banish monsters, but I can't banish any card. So, yeah, I had to banish my own Lubellion there. But, yeah, I'll use the Branded in Red to recur the Ad Libitum back to my hand, and now I can do the Guardian Chimera line using the Mirrorjade, the Ad Libitum I returned, and then this Effect Veiler as well. So I know my opponent's back rows are Rite of Aramesir and Branded in Red. I'm going to want to pop the Rite of Aramesir here because my opponent doesn't currently have enough resources. Well, they might with the Maxx draw, but it's not super likely that my opponent... What am I trying to say here? The Rite of Aramesir is always good by itself. The Branded in Red is only good if my opponent drew like kind of the right card here. Or the right cards, I guess, so to speak. So I want to get rid of the guaranteed good card. Plus, I want to get rid of the card that's going to result in a bounce and an Omni Negate. So yeah, definitely looking to oust the Rite of Aramesir there. So opponent did get Branded opening plus a card to discard. So it's a little bit like unlucky for me here. But yeah, ultimately it's not going to be like the end of the world or anything. Basically what I'm planning on doing is in response to this Branded in Red, I'm going to use the Mirrorjade to banish their Lubellion. That way they're not able to summon their Mirrorjade, and they have to go for either Quaretits or Masquerade. I believe they end up going for Quaretits, if I recall correctly. They can still Ad Libitum for the Mirrorjade, but... yeah, I wanted to force them into a different fusion here. Excuse me. So yeah, there comes the Mirrorjade coming back again. We knew that was going to happen. It's not that big of a deal. Well, it's a little bit of a big deal, but it's not like the biggest deal or anything. Yeah, I forgot I was under Maxx here, otherwise I wouldn't have brought back the Aluber, but looks like it's just going to result in an extra Fallen of Albaz on the board anyway. It's definitely not that big of a deal. I guess, yet again, not that big of a deal. It's funny because like, this might look like a big deal. Like, I might look really far behind. And to be fair, I'm a decent little bit behind, but, you know, I knew I had the search coming with the Albion here. I've got the Branded opening. It's like, I think this board state is definitely recoverable, especially now that I have the Rite with the Wandering Gryphon here. Yeah, that's going to enable me to set up the Dracoback here, as well as, obviously, again, the Omni Negate with the Wandering Gryphon Rider. Setting up our Lubellion. I'll just use that to pitch the Branded opening, and then go for my other Mirrorjade, which should be in the extra deck, right? Yeah, there we go. Excuse me, whew, I just got a bit of a frog in my throat, I guess, right now. Yeah, so the opponent is going to use the Quaretits to drop, you know, the token and the Gryphon Rider's attack points. That's fine. I was anticipating, you know, doing lethal on this turn anyway. I'll go for the 3k damage just to make lethal easier for sure. Definitely want to get rid of their Mirrorjade. And then, yeah, now all we have to worry about is this Despian Quaretits, which is not something I'm terribly concerned with. Okay, so they're going to use the Branded opening. I'll definitely respond with the Wandering Gryphon Rider here because I don't anticipate that their card in hand is live, given how readily they activated the Branded opening. It seems like something they were pretty willing to toss away just as a... well, I was going to say cost, but you don't discard as a cost to that card, which is kind of frankly ridiculous, but whatever. Yeah, no, so we're definitely just going to go ahead and get rid of their... or we'll stop that with the Wandering Gryphon Rider, because again, the card in their hand doesn't seem like it's going to be too pertinent to their strategy. It's a Ghost Belle that will stop my my Water Enchantress here, but that's not something I'm, again, concerned with at all. So, especially given that I have this Aluber Search and the Branded in Red as well. Yeah, again, we'll set up that Water Enchantress just to kind of do it. I don't anticipate I'll need it, but... oh, I'm sorry about that, excuse me. Yeah, and now that we have all level 8 or higher fusion monsters, the Despian Quaretits effect to drop attack points is no longer relevant, and that is going to pretty much secure the game there. So, I mean, the opponent does still have one more, you know, top deck here, but... it's not very likely that with one card, yeah, they'll be able to come back. So, yep, that's going to do it for that game. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one. So this game here is going to be against Numerons, everyone's favorite deck to run into here on Ladder. I will say this build has some kind of interesting tech. Like, it's using the limiter removals, but it's also using, like, what was it, Vic Viper and then some number of numbers, which can boost the attack of all light machines by 1200. You can summon it from your hand, like when a light machine battles, I think, or something like that. So, to be fair, at least they're doing neat tech. I haven't seen Neuron play that before, but in any case here, we've got the Aluber, we've got the Branded Fusion as a result, so this is going to be a pretty standard turn 1 line here, assuming we go uninterrupted, which it looks like we're going to be able to. Even then, we do have the call by here for backup, so yeah, pretty standard turn 1 line where we go for the Mirrorjade setup into the Mirrorjade into the Guardian Chimera setup, rather, for multiple forms of disruption. This makes this deck actually particularly apt even to fight like Numeron, right? Because like even though Numeron can often have like multiple ways to get to like, you know, Numeron networks, like you can just wait till they activate the first one and then, you know, flip up the Branded Red, pop the network with the Guardian Chimera, and then even if they drop like a Terraforming or a Planet Pathfinder and go for another one, you can then set up like, or you can then use the Mirrorjade to then banish the following Numeron network that they set up. So just, yeah, this deck is so disgusting. It's so disgusting in general, but even against stuff like Neuron, it's good. So, opponent activates the Archfiend Eccentric here. I'm going to want to chain in response to the resolution of this to pop it with the Guardian Chimera, chain the branded in red, because, you know, if I let my opponent just activate the effect, like, yeah, they might like target the branded red, but they know this one is going to be the branded red, so they'll probably target the other one, which is the call by, which I would like to keep as a disruption tool. So that's why I decided to opt for chaining the branded to pop the Archfiend Eccentric here. Basically just wanted to protect my call by to use as a potential disruption target later. So plus, you know, as with any kind of disruption combo on the opponent's turn, well, not any necessarily, but as with most of them, it's kind of better to set it up earlier if possible, your disruption tools. So I don't mind the Guardian Chimera. Basically, with the Guardian Chimera, I don't mind using it on something relatively minor like this, because that means that then, you know, that is not only dealt with, but then I also have the Mirrorjade then available to deal with other stuff, and the ability to banish as opposed to destroy can often be a more permanent solution, you know, to the problem at hand. Well, you do have a Lava Golem to sack off my Mirrorjade, which is definitely more than a bit of a pain there. I'm going to Ash Blossom Desires here, but given that I still have the Veiler and the Call By, I'm not like super duper concerned. Well, I'm trying to think actually. Well, I paused to think like, okay, if I Veilered one of the gates, and they would go 1, 2, 4, so it would only deal 1,000 to me, so yeah, so this Veiler is enough to stop. I thought I'd remember that right mid-game, but I kind of doubted myself after the game had finished. But yeah, that Veiler is enough. I just got to remember to do it during the main phase, obviously. But it turns out I'm not even going to have to do that, because what my opponent is going to search the Numeron network is with a Numeron wall. And I can just banish that with a call by and negate it, and then they won't be able to get to their network with that. So, but even again, if they did have access to Numeron network here, I could have used the effect Veiler to have lived through this turn, and then obviously, you know, we've got both Fallen of Albaz and Aluber in hand, so we have definitely more than enough plays to, or more than enough cards to make plays on the next turn. So, yeah, that is that game against Numeron there. Let's go ahead and jump into the next game. Alright, so this is going to be another game against the Mirror Match. This one's kind of playing like a more, I guess, quote-unquote pure build, in that it's using like Spriggane's Kid and Tri-Brigade Mercurier, oh, wow, I cannot say that monster's name. It's using a bunch of stuff to like kind of, you know, that actually goes more in line with the deck, more so than I guess what we're using. So just another variant in general. So looking at this opening hand, it's pretty solid. This obviously would have been a phenomenal going second hand, but still pretty good going first hand too. We will have to discard the Imperm with the Lubellion, but I'm not too concerned with that. Alright, so yeah, we're searching up the Aluber there, so that way we can normal summon it, and yeah, I was trying to remember during this sequence there was another way to get to the Ad Libitum rather than just searching the branded opening and then like discarding another card. I think that is actually the case here. Like, I don't know that there's necessarily another way to get to the Ad Libitum here. To make sure, because again, we have to add that, you know, for the branded in red that we're going to set up, that we set up with the Mirrorjade here. Leaving myself with Maxx and Ash Blossom as my remaining hand of traps. Here I decided to let this resolve because I wasn't really too concerned with my opponent minusing themselves to add the Ecclesia here. I did decide to activate the Maxx upon resolution just to catch my opponent before they special summon the Ecclesia, but they did have the call by here, which is definitely unfortunate. Yeah, I don't know if maybe I should have saved or maybe I should have rather not saved the Ash. I should have actually just activated there, but Okay, now here actually was a misplay here, chaining the branded in red like this. Although, to be fair, my opponent would have had another call by anyway. What I'm thinking of is, like, I should have let them summon the kit and then chain. Well, I know that because the effect will activate anyway. I'm trying to remember. I don't think I end up ashing this kit. I think I just. Oh, yeah, duh, because I was saving it for branded fusion. Duh. I was trying to remember, like, why didn't I ash this kit search? And then I remembered, oh, yeah, because, well, I also used the Despian Tragedy effect here by mistake. So that did, you know, remove my window to ash, but I also did that intentionally again because I was planning on just hitting the branded fusion here with the Ash Blossom, as we can see here. So, yeah, I'm thinking, like, okay, at this point, you know, obviously my setup isn't necessarily ideal, but at the very least I was able to prevent my opponent's branded fusion, but they do still have the Ecclesia in hand. And given that they're playing a more pure variant, they're going to have, like, a few more options to go into, like, follow-up plays, again, like, as they're wheeling this branded fusion back to their hand here. Now they can then use the Ecclesia to search up the Fallen of Albaz, and actually, because I've got a Mirrorjade, they can then go for their own Mirrorjade, so, this is one advantage. I guess, no, they go for Titanklad instead. But this is one advantage, you know, to using some of this more pure, I guess, again, a quote-unquote pure build with, like, again, the Brigade's kit, and the Tri-Brigade Mercurier. Jeez. And then, yeah, like the Ecclesia, just all those monsters. They're not necessary by any means, but they do add some more potential combo. Not necessarily even combo, but like just more extensive plays in general, like what my opponent was able to do during their turn here. So unfortunately, we peel a Veiler off the top of our deck. Definitely not a live play that we're looking for. I was looking for like Aluber, branded opening, branded fusion, like any amount of that would have been totally cool, but alas, it was not meant to be. So at only 2,600 life points, I'm afraid hitting this Aluber with a Veiler is not going to be enough, especially given that I know they have a branded fusion in hand, and yeah, it doesn't really matter what they make at this point. It doesn't really matter. They're just going to be able to go for lethal anyway, so they go for the Lubellion, but again, I know they've got it, so at this point I just concede. I give it to them. So GG's opponent there. So yeah, it was a nice mirror match there. I also wanted to show off. It's a nice way of me being able to show off a build that plays, again, more pure stuff like Sprigade's kit that I've thought about trying, and I might still try in the future, but haven't quite committed to yet at this point. So, all right, let's go take a look at the next game. Okay, so this matchup is, lo and behold, yet another mirror match. Definitely expect to see quite a few of these moving forward, to say, you know, the actual literal least. We are definitely going to be seeing lots of branded Despia moving forward. So, opponent's going to lead here. I've got a Veiler and a C, though, so that's pretty rad. Looks like they're going to start off with a Fateful Adventure, starting with their adventure line before going into their kind of, you know, main combo here. Ooh, they even have the Water Enchantress, so definitely was the best way to open Fateful, because, you know, oftentimes when you open Fateful Adventure, you kind of just have to play it and then add and send the Water Enchantress, but definitely doesn't bite as much. You've already got the Gryphon Rider as well, so I decided to throw out the Maxx. Opponent doesn't Gryphon Rider in response, which I think was a little bit odd. I definitely would have here, especially if they continued to continue playing through the Maxx, which they actually do here with the branded fusions. So, again, yeah, not sure why, because it's not giving me an extra, you know, special summon to chain the Gryphon Rider there. So, might have just been a simple, you know, just didn't remember right away or something. Who knows? But yeah, because we have the Veiler, we can definitely use that against the Lubellion here. And we'll use that to just kind of stop our opponent in their tracks. And now that they've only got 2 cards in hand, we know one is a Wandering Gryphon Rider, so we do have to be mindful of that. We now know one is an Aluber as well, and there's just one unknown there. So, and it ends up being just an Aluber. So, I wonder if they normal summoned it thinking they would get the effect here, but obviously they couldn't because they already used the Fateful Adventure. Like I said in the deck profile, that is something that you've got to be mindful of, because I think that is what actually happened here with the opponent, and I know I've seen other opponents do it too, where they try to either activate the Fateful Adventure after they've already normal summoned and activated Aluber, or vice versa. Again, like I said in the deck profile, you do have to be very mindful of that. This deck doesn't necessarily, you know, go into the adventure engine as seamlessly as some other decks do. So, anyway, I decided to lead with the Harpie's Feather Duster here. Had I been more mindful of the Gryphon Rider in hand, I should have led with the Rite of Aramesir, so that way my opponent didn't have the option to negate it with the Wandering Gryphon Rider. And because, you know, Feather Dustering these back rows doesn't really matter, again, especially given that the Dracoback will just equip there. So, a bit of a misplay on my part. I should have definitely led with a more relevant effect than just that Feather Duster. Just wasn't being mindful of the fact that that meant the Gryphon Rider would come down. So at this point, I'm actually activating stuff like Branded Fusion and like Aluber's effect, because I've got the Gryphon, or not the Gryphon, the Crossout Desginator in my hand, which can handle the Gryphon Rider. You know, I realized that like I wasn't able to make plays beyond normal summoning Aluber, so that's why I decided to just not go into the Rite of Aramesir, or even discard a copy of it without activating it there. Well, because at this point I can't activate it. I've already used the effect of a normal summon monster, but yeah, so here we'll go for the Mirrorjade. I'm actually going to go straight to the battle phase and just battle over this Gryphon Rider, because if I can save this Crossout Desginator and not have to use it on the Gryphon Rider, obviously that's definitely ideal for me. I'll leave my opponent with the Lubellion here, because the Lubellion doesn't do anything by itself. The token obviously would bounce my Mirrorjade with this up, and then, yeah, obviously don't want to leave the Gryphon Rider up there, so that's why we battled over that. So leaving my opponent with the Lubellion, though, is fine. I'm not concerned about that, especially because I've got this Crossout Desginator face down, and ultimately if my opponent does anything too scary, I'll be able to just kind of use it as a free Solemn Judgment, more or less. But before we lean into that, we're going to definitely start with the Branded Fusion on the, or there for the Guardian Chimera, and we're going to use that effect to destroy on that face down Branded Fusion my opponent just set there. And then of course we also get the draws on top of that, which are very, very nice, as well as of course, you know, setting up our Mirrorjade here again. Okay, so there we add, you have the Aluber. Ad Libitum summons the Mirrorjade, and then, like I said, Guardian Chimera is going to pop the face down Branded Fusion that just got set. And we even top deck the Ghost Belle off the Guardian Chimera, so we can just use that against the Branded in red that our opponent tries to follow up with here. And that's going to be enough to get a concede from the opponent there. So GG Saki. Alright, let's go ahead and move into one last game here. Alright, last duel of the video here is going to be against Adventure Tenyi, so not the mirror match. But again, definitely expect to see lots of mirror matches as we play this deck more moving forward. Alright, so we've got the first turn here. Opening hand is looking pretty solid. You know, we've got the Aluber here. I'm going to use that, and we do successfully bait out response to the effect Veiler. That said, though, I'm actually going to use Despian Comedy's in-hand effect for multiple reasons. One, because I do actually want this Aluber search, even though I don't need it technically because I've got the Branded Fusion. It'd still be very nice to have. And on top of that, I like setting up the Despian Comedy in the graveyard here. That way, if my opponent's got another Veiler or an Imperm against my Lubellion, then I can use the Despian Comedy to kind of circumvent that. The way that works, for those who don't know, is you know, Despian Comedy can, as a quick effect, tribute a fusion monster to summon itself in the graveyard. So basically, if the Lubellion got hit with a Veiler or an Imperm here, we could chain the Despian Comedy, send the Lubellion to the graveyard. Obviously, then the Veiler or Imperm would then fizzle, and then Lubellion would still resolve, and Lubellion can even still use itself as a material to shuffle back, because it can put stuff back that is in the graveyard. So that does include itself if it happens to be in the graveyard. For that reason. So actually this setup is pretty good here, because you might notice, because we added the Branded in red, we didn't actually end up needing to banish our own monster for it. So we have a Mirrorjade banish going into the opponent's turn. And again, remember, the once per turn clause on Mirrorjade is limited to the copies that are currently on the board. So not only do we have a Mirrorjade banish now, but then after we use that banish, we can flip up this Branded in red, make a Guardian Chimera, do that pop, bring back the Mirrorjade, and that Mirrorjade that we brought back will then have another banish on the same turn. So the card is just ridiculous. It really feels like it was almost intentionally designed this way, like to be abused in this manner. But like, yeah, it's just funny how like this restriction clause on Mirrorjade is really not a clause at all. You just have to be able to play around it, which is not like even like necessarily particularly difficult. So yeah, I definitely don't want my opponent to add the Gryphon Rider here. So and then in response to the Dracoback, I'll use the first banish from the Mirrorjade to get rid of the adventure token. Obviously don't want our stuff getting bounced. So yeah, opponent from here is going to align into Almirage, and then go to set up the Halcyon line from there. Oh, and they've even got the extra O-line in hand, that's right. Okay, yeah, now here, we flip the Branded in red. I was actually intending to pop the 2 cards here because I sent 2 cards from the field to the graveyard, right? I was gonna pop, what was it gonna be? The token and like maybe Almirage or something, or like, I don't remember what I tried to pop here, but one of them couldn't be destroyed, but wasn't destroyed by the card effect, so I guess we'll end up seeing how this plays out. I'm just trying to remember exactly how it played out. Yeah, so I went to pop the O-Lion and the token, but the O-Lion didn't get destroyed. I don't know why that is though. But I mean, the opponent conceded shortly afterwards, so you know, it ended up working out. But basically, my plan was kind of just prevent them from being able to go into Hulk in the first place. And yeah, again, I don't know why that O-Lion didn't get destroyed by a card effect. If you know in the comments, definitely feel free to chime in there and yeah, enlighten me because I'm not seeing it myself. So yeah, that is it for the gameplay. Let us now go ahead and move on to the outro. Okay, everybody, I want to thank you very much for watching all the way to the very end like this. Especially thankful to those of you who are commenting and subscribing as well. Like I said at the beginning of the video, those of you who are more familiar with Branded Despia, definitely don't be afraid to leave comments suggesting improvements to both the build itself and gameplay as well. Again, as I've said a couple of times now, I am relatively new to the deck here. As someone who only plays Master Duel, so even though I did my due research on it and I watched gameplay of it, you know, actually playing the games out then is you know, going to be very different. So yeah, if there's anything you would do differently, feel free to share that. I'm just very appreciative of the feedback. It's not only, you know, good for the channel, but also just means a lot to me personally, because I really like encouraging that like community-based learning, peers teaching peers, all that fun stuff, and I feel like we do that very well here on the channel. So always looking forward to promoting more of that. But yeah, that's gonna do it for this video. So without further ado, this is XLex. I'm signing out, and I hope you guys have a fantastic day.